So I missed whenever we initially passed the contact, but we are now in the Chocolate Mountains Schist. So here we have a rock that's sparkly. It's got micas in it. It's got a foliation, meaning there's a one flat plane that it breaks along that makes these flat surfaces here. Again, if I move the camera around, you should be able to see that sparkle. And so the Chocolate Mountains Schist, I'm just going to walk and talk, so I have to keep making some time here. So the Chocolate Mountains Schist so now it's a schist, which is a metamorphic rock, but it started out as a bunch of sediments, specifically the type of sediments you might find in a subduction trench, where an oceanic plate is being pushed underneath a continental plate. And so in this case, the Chocolate Mountains Schist represents sediments like that from about 70 million years ago. And at that time, there's an oceanic plateau, basically a piece of the oceanic crust that was extra thick. It would have been shallower there under the ocean too. And when that piece of oceanic crust got to the subduction zone, normally the oceanic crust just goes down under the continental crust. Oceanic crust is denser and it basically wants to sink. But when it's super thickened in a plateau, it doesn't really want to. And so instead it kind of messed up the edge of the continent. In fact, it messed up the interior of the continent too. They generally thought that this same oceanic plateau is what pushed up the Rocky Mountains in an event called the Laramide orogeny. When that oceanic plateau hit, there were a bunch of sediment sitting in the subduction zone trench, and those sediments got smashed underneath the continent. And they smashed up the continent so badly that basically they rearranged the whole upper part of the continental crust. So they were, relatively shallow within the crust. And then at a later time, about 28 to 24 million years ago, there was a period of extension in the Mojave Desert, geologically defined. And that extension created a bunch of faults that sort of dipped at a low angle, called low angle normal faults. And those faults pulled up rocks from deep below the ground, which were these Chocolate Mountains Schist. At the time, it's hard to say exactly how deep they were in this particular location, but in many places they would have been, maybe 5-10 kilometers down before this later extension event, then brought them all the way up to the surface, where they're now exposed today. So these are, I guess, the oldest rocks we've seen yet, and have one of the most complicated stories, too. Having started out in the ocean, were smashed down a subduction trench, possibly down to 50, 60 kilometers or more, and then eventually made their way back up to the surface through a couple different events that brought them closer up to the surface over time. Some massive pieces of quartz here. The quartz would be related to fluid flow, probably related to the faults that brought up this schist about 28 to 24 million years ago. And in fact, there are a number of gold and silver mines in the area that are probably related to minerals deposited by those fluids. Same ones that left the quartz here. Some little folds and pieces of the schist there. The good news is the schist has layers in it, so it makes some nice ledges, so it should make for good handholds and steps. Kind of big steps for a 45-pound pack.